Mr. Henley, I choose to relinquish my position.
You don't believe you can just relinquish your position, do you, Sergio? You do as I say, as I do, as I'm told by my master.
But I didn't sign up for this.
Oh, yes, you very much did. Your actions blare louder than words, and your thirst to prove yourself proved fruitful for my duties. One man's pain is another man's pleasure. I don't condone in evil distributions, but to survive on this plane is to compromise your morals for every deed done. You're a man, so you don't run. You persevere and don't succumb by any means to take care of your family.
But my character doesn't warrant such wickedness.
Push a man beyond the scope of his pain, and he'll transcend what he deems to be morally wrong. It's a good dance with the devil, a sin for a win.
Well, I'm done with this. I want out. I'd rather be a man pertaining to high values than to stoop low to dance for a nickel and dime.
Then in the furnace you shall perish.
No!
Ezzlyn throws her hand up. The scorched patient becomes paralyzed. Some sort of devilish power from within shackles this quiddity. But instead of us showering Ezlyn with a surprise, we become engrossed at the oddity of this scorcher. Its eyes, with shifting molten colors, watch with a baleful intelligence. A ring in its face, like it caught a whiff of sour red wine. We don't heave, we don't leave, we're just hypnotized by this nasty sign of a life. It droops like a melted vanilla mustard ice cream. Its grooves in its cheeks respires with a labored rattle of death. And while we stare into those eyes that betray the strain of terror, it's eaten by the all-seeing eye and labyrinth. Ezlyn studies it.
Hidden knowledge, insight, spiritual awareness.
She says it's beyond what is visible to the naked eye. A palpable, sinister aura of despair and sorrow densifies this crazed house. Secrets of a blood-curdling, jaw-dropping, ghost-waggling world. Rick gives his input on the labyrinth.
Mystery, complex paths of journeys, explore and discover.
Secrets of another world, layered within our consciousness. A puzzle to be solved, one we need to dig deep in. But what lies ahead is just a cacophony of brewed evil and malicious content, or a story of pain that requires ones to be saved. The Scorcher's eyes flutter, with tears and a treacherous lump in their throat. Ezlynn releases her hand, and the Scorcher drops to a knee. Their life sucked out of them, although they have none. They tell us we won't be able to leave unless we restore hope to the craze house. How it's a maze of unwavering craze. It's a place full of shame and ain't safe.
Where are we? What are we doing here?
I shout at them, and their voice echoes.
You're here, but don't fear. You're somewhere, not anywhere, but not really in here.
I bend my neck to the side.
Don't riddle me hazy or betroth.
Nothing to be scared of. Ha! They say he just scratches the surface. He's the most earnest, serves a purpose to uphold the menace of this terrace and pave the way for the veil-born walkers. They stand up and smile.
Where's Sinfi?
I rattle, and they freeze in a state of traumatic teary eyes. We anticipate a budge, but they seem to have ceased to exist. Rick shrugs.
What now?
A sweltering, crying hum sounds from the scorched patient, and their eyes begin to morph into a web of eating mites, a melting craze house. The shocking experiences it went through in this manner. Locked in the basement, forced to eat mice for lunch. Electrical currents shot through their body to induce uncontrolled seizures in the brain. Trial medication to evoke paranormal copies of themselves. Substances that make patients crawl on walls, act like monsters, rave in their slumber, sending them all into a venomous paralysis. Then it stops, and their eyes turn to a cloudy gaze.
We must go,
Ezzlyn says. She walks out of the room, and we follow without hesitation.
How did you do that?
I growl. She quickly explains that she only has this power while in this world, as she has been here before for a brief moment.
Lies.
Mercy says. Ezzlyn kisses her teeth. Her bluntness and defiance astounds Mercy. A grim resonance crawls through the atmosphere. It's coming. It's running. This craze house is a nut house. It will chew and spew you out. Shock house in a muck house. This place doesn't have no end. This sounds like it's coming from the next room, pulsating with an unnatural shade of black that seems to absorb the light. Dense, with a shadow that shifts, extending beyond the limits of darkness. Ezzlyn's fast with it, but we slow down in precaution, because we're not getting swallowed by this motion. Ezzlyn stops at the door. Her eyes widen, so we come to a halt. We all observe intently, but Mercy huffs and scurries towards her.
Mercy, where are you going?
Krish in a restrained voice, trying to control her rising anxiety. Mercy stops beside Ezzlyn. Her jaw drops, and her stare, like she's being slowly pulled in by a mesmerizing spiral clock. I look to Rick and Krish, then I nod in her direction, ready to face any soul-sucking brother, any cold, insatiable hunger that feasts on my soul I'm ready. Rick lowers his stance and moves towards Mercy and Ezlyn. I pull my shoulders back and puff out my chest. Krish leans forward, ready to jab and grab at this crab. We're finally near. Our eyes stab at an unsettling patient, warped in a way that defies logic. Attached to the oppressive darkness, something's wrong with its unblinking gaze that feels like a vacuum. You don't want to look away, but the longer you stare, the closer it seems to get, distorting its pull. This patient isn't alive, nor is it dead. Dread. But what sits behind them is the symbol of a battered skull with broken razor-thin teeth on the wall. The crossbones bend with fractions of an unearthing illumination, piercing through its structure.
Why aren't we affected?
Krish says. I weigh in. Activation patterns in men and women are different. Our amygdala processes emotions differently.
So how do we get them out of it, mate?
Rick responds. Simple, I proclaim with confidence. We need to overload their visual processing. I'll quickly wave my hands in front of their eyes. Rick, you've got huge hands. Clap them extremely loud in their peripheral. Krish, you're good at mantras and affirmations. I need you to think of something quick. Krish responds with,
I release fear. I walk in the light.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about, I praise.
But Jay, you sure this mumbo jumbo will work?
Rick says in disbelief. Focus and believe, man. This is all we've got. Now on the count of 3, let's get cracking. I clench my fists. 1, 2, 3.
I release fear. I walk in the light.
Mercy and Ezlyn's trance begins to dissolve, bringing them back to this frightmare, this nightmare. The Scorcher seems to be thunderstruck and dissipates into the atmosphere. They take a breather.
The symbol of fear,
Ezzlyn gasps. She says the Scorchers are still scared, although they scare us. And that fear is the energy of destruction. Fractured skulls symbolize a fractured soul. And for us, it could emphasize danger, harm, or the inevitability of "Don't say it!" I scream. I don't want to hear that word anymore. You seem to love it. But that monosyllabic word permeates our subconscious. She says, why fear when it's not the end? It's a new beginning. And that her entire existence romanticizes the darkness. A different side of life that walks amongst the light and spreads love. How goths don't conform and like to connect with a community that values artistic expression. So she be not afraid of a mortal end. The voice of the Scorcher speaks in an uncomfortable riddle. I have no eyes. I have no tongue. I walk with the deceased. I speak with the Reaper and collect souls for the Scarecrow. And the skull starts to scowl and smile and malform while protruding from the wall. Ezzlyn hurries away. while I grab Mercy and stride off. We know not to stay. A belting scream comes from Rick behind me. I stop, and with a shuddering breath, I steal a look back. But him and Krish seem to be just fine, following my trail, giving me the silent look that I'm hearing things, but to remain free from shame and keep sane in the membrane. After funneling through this Stygian hallway for a while, we cross paths with two broken mirrors either side. A sickening tremor racks our eyes as we see an unsettling distortion that carries unfamiliar, sinister features. Egg yolk tumor styes battle the eyelids. Crusted gunk marks seem to breathe from our skin. My face is warped, but wrapped in a bubbling black stew. Mercy's fingers melt. Rick and Krish are conjoined, with a third person dripping from their armpits.
Broken mirrors.
Ezlynn says to herself quietly, saying how they represent a distorted self-perception and shattered identities, while admiring her burnt oak skin, hair that swirls with shadows, wicked lip smile, an aura of dark allure, both graceful and dangerous, and her skin flushed with a faint ectoplasm tint that evokes a sense of disease.
What in the name of the...
I pierce with a trembling shout, but Ezzlyn makes a quick shift to proceed along the hallway. Thus, we have no choice but to keep up with the creeper. Now a haunting, delicate wisp of a scream fades with a festering anguish.
Cynthia!
Rick exclaims.
She's close by.
Krish projects. Find her, Ezlyn! I holler. Although Cynthia's scream still lingers through this crumbling timber. Rick trots, Krish scuttles, Ezzlyn patters, Mercy scurries, and I swipe my arms, taking big, reckless steps, failing to heed any airy omens ahead. Now that same scream from Cynthia slices through the air, gnawing at our eardrums. We seize our movement. Cynthia's pinned up against the wall, suffocated by faint, ethereal fingers and a nightmare of malice that chokes her eyes white. Her stretched skin sags, but is pulled against her skeletal structure, with her eyes pulsing in and out of its sockets, like something noxious breathes through her body, and that scream shoved out of her mouth as this veil-born squeezes the apple in her throat.